Um, let's talk about anything that is holding you back.
Hey, I'm going to start out, Hugo. This is Keith.
Okay, kid, go for it.
Hey, I was able to start the going down the roster today and talking with a few of the other deal makers. And I accomplished a lot today. Some of the things that were holding me back, some of the things that were holding some of the other deal makers back, we were able to discuss those things and try to work through them together today. And I think that was very helpful for me and for them.
Okay, perfect. So, in a nutshell, what did you learn, or how were you able to help each other?
Well, one of the things that, I don't want to mention any names, but some of the deal makers aren't as experienced, and didn't really know how to get started, and
Right,
where to start
right,
in investing, and they were hesitant. And it's not that they don't have the funds or they just, since they don't know how to invest, they need a little hand holding.
okay.
And I said that I would be willing to work with them. And I gave them all my phone numbers and say that, it's always, fearful when you're starting something new
Right.
and you need some encouragement and you need someone to ride along with you as you learn. And I said, I'm more than willing because I have the time to do that. You know, I have the time to work with them and to handhold them as they go along.
Yeah, very cool, kid. Great job. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. What about Glenn? Glenn, how are you doing? What are you working on now?
Oh, can you hear me, Hugo?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good, good. Yeah, I'm actually jumping back in recently. Time was an issue for me, working a pretty demanding corporate job, which I actually just got laid off from last week. So, unfortunately, um, I'm still currently looking, but now I have, absolutely more time to devote. So at this point, kind of focusing my efforts on, searching for 5 to 16 unit multi-unit properties, and was initially looking for fix and flip properties. I was close to actually signing a contract on a property in Inglewood against my better judgment, and I ended up passing on it. Just given what's going on in Inglewood recently, so kind of let that distract me. But I'm going to continue. Well, actually start focusing on multi-unit properties. So got more time now.
That's awesome. What was your full time before?
I was actually running a default loan servicing department. Um, so I had a team of about 20 people. So very demanding. It was just hard to devote much time to real estate outside of the weekends. I was at Federal Home Loan Bank in Chicago up until last week, Tuesday. Yeah, so for residential mortgage loans, loan servicing pretty much.
Okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. So are you currently now devoting to real estate 100%, or are you still looking for a job?
I'm still looking for a job, but I have time to devote to real estate because I'm just not sure how fast I'll be able to, get income in. But I do want to take advantage of the time because, I would rather start earning income from real estate before I get sucked into another corporate job, which is
My
gonna be,
boy. Yeah,
time
no,
consuming.
that's really good. And I'm super excited about you because that's how everything started for me. I got laid off from my work, and I was obviously sad, disappointed, worried, concerned, but that turned out to be for the better.
Yeah,
So this might be one of your greatest opportunities.
that's
Uh,
true.
yeah, no, I think Yeah, you could be up to something amazing if you are able to devote. Now, let me ask you, why are you doing or focusing on multi-unit versus,
Well,
let's say,
just
single-family home or?
yeah, my main focus is just to bring in to build passive income. Um, that's the main focus. And so that I guess that was and that was one of the main reasons that I hopped on the webinar because I know that with the title it's hey, do you fix and flip or do you rent? I know you guys are still doing fix and flip, so I was curious,
Yes.
with rates going up, and are you guys concerned about continuing doing flips in the next 2 quarters?
Yeah, no, great point. So let's dive into it. Um, so let me quickly give you the summary. So right now we have declining values, ARVs. Since rates went up, banks are being very strict as far as lending, the guidelines, as far as lending to unexperienced people. Okay, so they're holding back also appraisers. Over 50% of the appraisals are not coming up to what the sales contract or executed contract price is. They're pushing
Oh,
back.
wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we're seeing declining. Properties are sitting longer in the market despite the shortage of inventory. Okay, so the increase in interest rates have caused certain buyers to decrease their purchasing power, affordability. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's obviously affecting um, the flips. So we're still doing flips, but the key is to be very conservative on the ARVs and not taking big rehabs. Okay, so once you go over 75,000 on the rehab, you're touching major systems or redoing them. So then the risk goes through the roof. It's about minimizing the risk. To be able to
Gotcha.
do that, you still need to do kitchen bathrooms, but stay within anywhere between 45 to 65 is the sweet spot. It's hard to do rehabs below 45,000 on a, let's say, 12, 1,300 square feet property, where before we used to multiply the square footage times 30% to come up with an estimated rehab. Now it's anywhere between 30 if the exterior is okay, but if the exterior needs work, then we multiply it times 40. So let's assume the property has 1,300 square feet, multiply these times 40, assuming that it needs also exterior work, like, garage, siding, driveway, perhaps some windows, curb appeal. Then you take 1,300 times $40, that's 52,000. So yeah, rehabs are hitting 45, 50,000. So that's something that you need to be aware of. Increasing cost in labor and materials and declining ARV. So it's putting a putting
Right.
pressure on the profit. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing flips. I mean, we have right now we're putting two more properties on the market, so we should be 7 or 8 properties now that we have on the market. Out of
Oh, wow.
that many, we have 2 in the contract. 2 fell off. Something to be aware of is we're completing the projects fast, which is a good thing. But the end retail buyer happens to be an FHA, VA loan individual. So then we we have a 90-day seasoning period from the day we
Mhm.
purchase the property till we convey title to or sell it. We need to wait 90 days, so have that period of holding before an FHA or VA buyer can close on it.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's something to be aware of. But still, the key is um, to buy properties for less than 150,000 and stay within the ARV range of below 250. Once you go over
Okay.
250, then the rehab quality needs to be really, really good. And then the the pool of buyers is smaller, and they're going to be pickier. So it makes things even more difficult. Like
Right.
we just got a property on the contract in Elmhurst, but purchase price. I mean, we listed it for 379. We got it on the contract for 375, but it took like 6 weeks, 6, 7 weeks.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, um, we just need to be conscious of carrying expenses and holding expenses when you go beyond 3, 4 months. Because think about this, the rehab, let's say it's month and a half, 2 months, plus market time, another 3, 4 months. So a
Right.
deal typically takes anywhere between 4 to 6 months. Um, so
Yeah.
whereas the rental market is extremely strong.
Mm-hmm.
Because now buyers who cannot afford to buy, guess what? They need a place to live and they're going into rentals. So rents have gone through the roof. So we experienced an increase in rents of like 20, 25%. So
Right.
yeah, that is just how things are right now. Because there are not too many units and the few that are available, they get dozens of applicants. Like for instance, we had a vacancy in Elgin. It's a 4 flat, and then most of the units are paying anywhere between 1,000 to 1,100. This one we were able to rent it for 1,450,
Oh,
and
wow.
we had 117 inquiries. So it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's a super hot rental market. Okay, so right now, I mean, the time to do rentals, it's great, despite the fact that interest rates are higher. It does make sense to stick to rentals, and then if you're going to pursue flips, just be very conservative. The formula to get the max allowable offer. We take the ARV times 75%, but now we're considering dropping that to 70%. So we're going to be more conservative, meaning we have to pay less for the property due to this decline in ARVs. So we're going to be pushing probably in the next month or so from 75 to 70%. So ARV, let's assume the ARV is 200,000. Before we used to multiply that times 75. Um, Now, let me give an example. I'm gonna do the calculation. So 200,000 times 70% is 140, minus the rehab, let's say 40. The most you should pay for the property is 100,000. Now, with the 70% instead of 75, instead of paying 100,000, we're gonna multiply 200 times before it used to be 75. So I just gave you the 70% rule of thumb. So
Right.
100,000, whereas before is 200 times 75 minus 40. So now the difference is 10,000. Instead of paying 10, now you should be paying 100,000. So that's
Oh,
something to
geez.
be aware of. Now the question is, and this is what many investors wonder, what should I do? Should I flip or rent? Guess what? We developed a framework and it's super, super simple to decide whether you should flip or rent a property. Take the cash flow, the positive cash flow per month for the next 10 years. So let's assume that your property, if you were to rent it, you are cash flowing, I don't know, let's say 500 a month. So that's 6,000 a year. Multiply that times 10 years. So that's 60,000 net positive cash flow in the next 10 years. So now you are going to take your net profit on the flip. If the net profit on the flip is greater than the positive cash flow for the next 10 years, then you flip. If not, you rent. Does that make sense? So again,
That
I'm
makes
going to
sense.
repeat. Let me repeat this. Flip profit 50,000. But if your cash flow in the next 10 years is going to be greater than that, then you hold. But if it's going to be less than 50,000, then you flip. So it's super simple. that rule of thumb works amazing when you need to decide. Now, when you invest, you have to be aware of flipping and rental markets. So, great flipping market is where properties move super fast, and the metric that we look at is the months of housing supply. What that is how many months would it take for all the inventory to run out, assuming no new properties coming to the market. So if all the inventory, let's say in Naperville, is going to run out in 2 months, it's an amazing flipping market. If it's greater than that, it's not the best flipping market. So you're looking at months of housing supply of 2 months or less to make it a top flipping market. So now with the shortage of inventory, many villages, many cities have become a great flipping market. So that is why flips have become extremely attractive to investors. But again, you just need to be aware of the declining prices. And then for rental markets, the rule of thumb is that take your all-in investment. Let's say you buy it for 100, you need to put in 50 to stabilize it. So all in 150. Regardless of the ARV, let's assume the ARV is 200,000, but we're going to take in the all-in investment, 150. Take 1% of that. So 150, 1% is 1,500. You should be collecting at least 1,500 for the deal to make sense, to meet the debt coverage ratio required by the lender, meaning that you'll be cash flowing at least 20%. So if you, let's say, collect $1,000, all your operating expenses and debt service should be 800. Therefore, you're cash flowing $200 per month. So that's the requirement from the bank. But again, if you have that rule of thumb of the 1%, when you analyze the property, again, all in 150, you should collect 1,500. So there are markets where the rents are super, super high, like Berkeley, Old Ship, a house that you can buy for maybe 190, 180 could be rented for 1,900, 2,000. Berkeley, like 2,100 for a 3-bedroom. So that's something to consider when doing rentals or flips. For sure, going the rental route is a long-term best investment, and it's the most forgiving offer. So you can even multiply your ARV times 80%. So you can afford to pay a little bit more if it's a rental because of the long-term investment and time that you have to recoup. So yeah, there are many benefits to rentals. One of the biggest benefits, obviously, is the passive income, depreciation, increase in net worth, increase in cash flow over time, versus a flip. You always need to be working and finding deals, rehabbing them, and trying to sell them for where you expect to sell them. So flips are riskier, but it's a great strategy to capitalize yourself. No, 1 second. No, porque estás destruyendo. No, mija, te puedes cortar. Oh. No, mija. Okay. So, yeah, so you just need to be very conservative when it comes to considering flips versus rentals. But for sure, rentals, I would say, is more comfortable, less risk, because the rehab doesn't need to be perfect, right? Rental market is super strong. So it's a long-term best strategy. With the flips, it's important because you can capitalize yourself, meaning that you need the reserves, the cushion, to do more real estate, to do more deals. So it's important to engage in flipping and wholesaling as well. Let's not forget wholesaling. Properties that make sense, that may not be a good deal for you, but if the numbers make sense, somebody will be interested in those deals. So let's not leave money on the table. And wholesale, we can help you move the property if the numbers make sense. And we go 50-50 on the assignment fee. Are there any questions on the line? Is this making sense so far? Are you able to hear me? Is this making sense to everyone?
Makes sense to me.
Yes.
Hey
Yeah,
Hugo,
Danny.
we
Yes.
can hear you. Can you hear me?
It's breaking up a bit, George. Go ahead, try it. Try it again.
Okay, let's try.
Yeah, we were listening better, hearing you better, George. Or well, George gets the.
Can you hear me now, Hugo?
Oh, perfect, perfect, George.
Okay, sorry, I had to log out and log back in. Quick question. When you do flips, what's the rule of thumb? Let's say if you decide to do a flip, and how long do you have to own it before you flip it to do a 1031 exchange?
So the 1031 exchange applies in the back end so that you don't pay taxes on the proceeds on the capital gain. So you have
Correct.
like 6 months to buy a new property, comparable property. But to do a flip, you need to be aware of if your end buyer, the retail buyer, is using an FHA or VA loan, that you must comply with the 90-day seasoning rule, which means that you need to hold the property for at least 90 days before they can, you know, buy it from you. Um,
So that's okay. So as an example, let's say you bought something, you close on it, and it takes you, let's say, 90 days to remodel the property and get it to market on the property. And then let's say it
oh,
takes another, let's say, 45 days because let's say you list it, you price it correctly, you list it, and you close in 45 days. So you're about 4.5 months into the process. Can you, at that point, when you close on the property, can you 1031 exchange your gains into the next property?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a smart way, right, to not pay taxes on the capital gain. Absolutely.
So that is doable, correct?
Of course, yes. And that's a very good idea.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm because I couldn't find the information and it wasn't very clear. And I wanted to make sure that it was accurate before, try to do any kind of moves like that.
Yes, no, absolutely. No, that's a great idea. Especially if you're expecting a capital gain of over 100,000. Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense to reinvest that capital gain to defer taxes. So it's not like we are not going to pay taxes on it. Eventually, we will, but in the meantime, we're just deferring capital gain taxes by doing the 1031 exchange.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. How is your Mondeline property, by the way, and this plains?
So with Mundaline, we're moving along. It ended up being more of a gut rehab because there was I found some problems with the joists, but it's not going to be a major issue. I mean, it's costing me a little bit more for an extra dumpster and a little more garbage to get rid of. And
Okay,
what we're going to do because it has a crawl space, We're going to make sure we put a vapor barrier in the crawl space. So we basically, the house had no insulation, and I want to keep it as a long-term rental. So we're going to take out, basically gut it and put a vapor barrier in the crawl space, and then pour a 2-inch slab in the crawl space. So this way we won't have moisture issues, because the joists in the floor were, if the house is a little bit older, it was already starting to absorb the moisture, and there was some rotting going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to repair it the right way and move forward. And then there were no insulation in the walls, so we'll spray in insulation between the joists and put up new drywall. Then this way everything will be nice, clean, and fresh. And basically they had, this house had other issues, but we're going to remedy all the issues. They constantly, it looked like they had problems because they had cold air constantly coming into the crawl space where the plumbing was. And my assumption is that every year they had water issues where the pipes would freeze and they would break. So we're doing that all the right way. And then we're also converting. We were able to convert the one room that was a mechanical room into a third bedroom. So we'll be okay on the ARV on the back end on this property, even though we're going to be putting in some extra costs, but we'll still come out okay. Again, we're going to probably go up in cost probably by another $10,000, but it's still not going to be terrible because the ARV will be there on the back end. With Mundaline, right now I'm working on submitting plans to get permits, whatever, or just apply for permits. And I sort of reconfigured the house there too. We bought the house for really well. So I'm able to convert the house to a 3-bedroom house from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. And right now I'm still working through a little bit of my design, and I'm hoping to finalize it by tomorrow. I'm going to add another bathroom. I'm not sure if it's going to be a full bath or a half bath, but if I could add another full bathroom, it'll be a 3-2, which will significantly increase the price value of the property. And the house is, in my opinion, in a nice location. It needs some it needs some landscaping. There's a big tree that I got to take down, which will be costly, but this house is actually 12 houses away
Maybe,
from the lake.
right.
So I think it's going to be a desirable area, and it could be even rented as a vacation type rental.
Okay.
So I bought the place for like 90. My assumption is if we get it, if we make it a 3, 1.5, then ARV should be closer to 250.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how much of a rehab?
You know what? For rehab, I'm counting it's going to be at least 50,000 because of adding a bathroom, close to 55,000. And then again, there's gonna, in addition to that, a garage. I still haven't decided. I have to talk to the city again. It's either gonna be a 2.5-car garage or a 3-car garage, which will be a cost of, let's say, close to 20 to 30,000, depends on how big of a garage you go with.
Okay. Right. Um, so yeah, that sounds pretty good, George. I think you're moving into the right direction by reconfiguring the property, adding spaces, like living spaces. So that's going to be awesome
Right.
on the back end.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else would like to share what you are working on?
How you going?
Hey, Sam.
Very good. Just to let you know, the property I had in Palatine
Yes.
didn't sell with the price that the owner wants. So we end up renting it
Oh,
for
really?
$3,000 a month. Yeah,
Whoa.
we have a very good tenant, husband and wife and a kid, and they're very happy. It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. So it wasn't that bad.
Well, that's going to be a great cash flowing property.
Yes, it is. And the only thing, the tax will go up because the previous owner had senior exam and senior freeze.
Mm,
So the the uh, the owner uh, has to come up with a little more money to pay the tax.
okay. How
So
much, Mark?
from 1,700 will go up to 4,700.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Not bad. I mean, still we are okay. So
Great job. What about your other
yeah,
project? Prospect Heights or
yeah, Mount Prospect.
Mount Prospect?
No, Prospect Heights. I'm sorry,
No,
Prospect
Prospect
Heights.
Heights, yes.
Yeah, I always mix up these two. No, that one is going forward very good. I mean, we changed all the floors, all the windows, the roof. So adding one more full master bathroom to it, they made it more valuable. So yeah, and then we are finishing everything little by little to put it back in the market.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
The 12 building on south side, I believe you didn't show any interest. I'm talking to
Yeah,
another
we need,
group
yeah,
to see what we can do
yeah, perfect, Sam.
to, to sell it.
Yeah.
Hugo, do you have any source of lending money less than 12%?
What you need or you have
I need.
access to?
No, I'm looking for it
Oh, okay.
because that would be great for the flip or even rehab.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now. So we have a line of credit
Yes.
that we're making this available to investors. So
Really? Very good.
yeah, the rate is about anywhere between 7.95 to 9. 1 point origination, $1,000 servicing fee,
Oh,
and
good.
so yeah, we can partner up with investors
Very
on
good.
these. We
So,
become the guarantors of the loan, and it's 90% of the purchase price, 100% of the rehab.
wow, that's good. And
So yeah,
no 2% origination fee or
no, only 1%. So we're
or
getting the
1%.
best terms.
That's very good. That's
Yeah,
perfect. That's a lot
yeah,
of progress.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So
very good. We are getting better and better.
yeah,
And my last question, Igor, does Jacob call you anytime, tell you that he has a great property, you have to move on it or jump on it, or you have to call him
no, we
and
need to
tell him?
reach out. He's so busy. He's
He,
nationwide.
or is he? Okay. So
Yeah,
you have to find the property and then get his idea
correct.
if it is
Exactly.
good to jump on it or not.
Right.
Very good. Still, I'm looking
Perfect.
for north side and northwest side
Okay.
if you
Awesome.
come across anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Anybody else? Veronica, team, Rob, Mary Pena, Jessica.
Hey Hugo, it's Mark. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Very good. Thanks.
All right. So, in your opinion, um, the rental market is strong. The housing market is kind of cooling off. Are you thinking to scale back flips, or they have to have like serious, major, profitability in them to actually continue them? What's your thought?
My thought is that we just need to be conservative on calculating the ARV because we're seeing declining values.
Correct.
Appraisals are pushing back, so we just need to make sure that we're conservative on both the ARV and also the rehab, right? Because if we go over the rehab, then that's going to put pressure on the profit. If you don't sell it for what you need to sell it for, again, that puts pressure on the profit. Um, so yeah, those are the two factors that we really need to be aware of. But I mean, by all means, we're still doing flips. I mean, we closed on a property in Park Ridge on Monday. We closed yesterday on another one in South Holland, and the objective is to flip. And we have probably 5 or 6 in the market right now, 2 on the contract. So yeah, we're heavily doing flips. But yeah, we're seeing that properties are sitting longer in the market, despite the shortage of inventory due to the interest rate increases that brought the buyer's pool to a stall for now. So some of them, they can no longer afford what they used to afford 3 months ago. So they're jumping into the rental market.
Right. Because of the interest rates going up, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's affecting for sure. But it's still, if the numbers make sense, now we're moving to probably in the next few weeks to the 70%, instead of 75, ARV times 70% should be the safest approach. Minus the rehab should be your max allowable offer. Yeah, just to make sure that, you are safe number-wise.
Okay.
And then as a backup, you should always have, let's say, like Sam said, if for whatever reason you are not able to sell the flip, you should be able to, let's say, keep it as a rental and be able to refinance. So to be able to do that, you need to have the back-end equity, at least 25%. So that goes back to buying the property for the right price.
Yes, right. Okay.
But in certain villages, obviously, we cannot count on them on the rental approach as the exit, such as South Holland, Country Club Hills, right, because of the rental moratorium. So then you have no choice but to flip. So I know you were planning on doing many flips. So what's been your approach recently? Are you still pursuing them?
Well, I actually was doing my first flip, which is on the market. I'm a partner of it, and just noticed fewer people coming out. Just wondering if I should rent it. I don't know, just not seeing it was delayed a little bit because of a contractor having COVID and being in the hospital 2 months. Had it been listed 2 months ago, it would have already been sold, I'm sure.
Whoa.
Yeah, it really hurt. Never mind the extension of the private money and the extra interest.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. But I mean, I think you still have time, right? Before the rental market cools off. I mean, it slows down near Thanksgiving. So you still have time to try to sell it during the summer. And if not, then you'll be able to rent it very fast.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if maybe I should just, put a tenant in there and then refinance it and be done with it. Because at the end of the day, it's not really the money from the flip, it's just getting rid of the private money loan.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
tell me the numbers. What are you expecting to sell it for? What's the loan amount?
The private money loan was for, oh boy. I'd have to add some things up. These are rough numbers. All right. So the private money loan was for 150 and
150.
Yeah, it was about I think 35. And
So 150. Okay.
yeah, the ARV was at the time, it could be different now. At the time was about 225. In fact, the property next door sold in August, right when I bought this property at 225.
Okay, 225.
Right.
Okay, so if we quickly run the numbers, so 225 times, I would say 92%, so 207 minus 150. So yeah, I mean, the profit should be somewhere around 50, 55 if you set it for that, 50,000. So it's a very nice spread. So at least you should make 20% return on your flip. So if you sell off of the sales price, if you sell it for 230, you should be expecting to make at least 46,000, which you would in this case if you sell it for that much.
Yeah,
Pay
I
off the loan.
believe we got it listed for 229, but just not getting a lot of activity.
Oh, I see.
That's the
Yeah, it
problem.
might be. It might be over. Yeah. So this is the key, Mark. This is what we're doing. We're running CMAs on a weekly basis because you need to be on top of the market, right? So that is very critical. When you put a property on the market, you've got to monitor what's happening with the competition because they can utilize your overpriced property to sell theirs, and it should be the other way around. You always want to be the best deal out there on the market.
Right.
So it's important to monitor the what's happening with the sales activity in that particular area. So because
Right.
new properties come on the market, and then there might be a comparable property to yours on the market for 210. So guess what? Yours is not going to sell. They're going to sell theirs first, and
Right.
then you should be aware of that, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're going to do something, but you may need to take action, right? And say, well, I may need to reconsider a price drop, or as you said, maybe I'm better off refinancing and putting a tenant in the property.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning at right now. And I'm going to have that conversation hopefully today or tomorrow with the partner.
Where is the property?
Linwood.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, like 3 bedroom or 2 bath. I mean, they're selling for that much, like 230 to. Linwood is it's a good market. It's a good neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I have to revisit that.
Yeah, absolutely. Felipe did a flip there. Felipe Pulgarin.
Yeah, I know who he is. Yes.
Yeah, he knows that area. He did a flip, not recently, but so yeah, I think you should have your options open
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I just was. Yeah. No, that's helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, that's what we're doing, right? So we just finished Marshfield in Markham and Schultz in Lansing. We did CMAs for both rental and flip. Even though we're going to put it for sale first, we're ready to. If not, if they don't work out, we just put a tenant in there, right? So yeah, just have your options open.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Yep. No problem, Mark. Anybody else? So again, just quick rule of thumbs. You need to make 20% on your flip. Like Mark was saying, if he sells his property for 230, multiply that times 20%, that's 46,000. You should be making at least 46,000. He would be making a little bit more than 50,000. And again, when you sell a property, keep in mind that your selling expenses are going to be, including closing expenses, are going to be about 8% of the sales price. So if you sell it for 230, 8% of that is going to be like close to 20,000 in commissions, closing expenses, tax proration, and so forth. So keep that in mind. Again, you need a 20% return on the flip. So yeah, that was. I'm glad that Mark brought that up. So you should always not only monitor the current activity on the market, but be aware of your second or plan B option, which might be a rental.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And
No
that
problem,
number
Mark.
is 18,000, so that's 8% about 18,000. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's just if we have to lower the price, if we have to lower the price to get people in the door, it's becoming less profitable and more rentable, is what I'm thinking.
absolutely, absolutely. And then you have rents going through the roof, so it becomes, appealing to go the rental route.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking 2,100 on the rental.
Exactly. Imagine, so your cash flow is going to be very nice, Mark. Your payoff loan is going to be 150, right? So
Something
you'll be
like
cash
that.
flowing. Yeah, you'll be cash flowing at least 400, if not more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because the taxes are not high in Linwood.
Right.
So yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Plus, you have the backend equity to have at least 25-30% equity on the property.
Yes.
So pretty much you get a free property, and on top of it, the cash flow. So let's just quickly run the example. Should you flip or rent Mark's property? Let's do the framework rule of thumb that we discussed earlier. Take the positive cash flow for the next 10 years. So you'll be cash flowing, let's say 500 a month easily on it. So it's 6,000 a year times 10 years, that's 60,000. And you're gonna be making if you sell it for 230, you'll be making 55. But if you drop the price, guess what? Your cash flow is gonna be greater in the next 10 years. It's gonna be 60,000 versus maybe 45, 50 that you make on the flip. So guess what? It makes sense to do a rental on your property, just like that, with that rule of thumb, because your cash flow for the next 10 years is gonna be greater than your net profit on the flip, with the assumption that you can rent it for 2,100 and cash flow 500 per month. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. Are there any other comments or questions that we can? That was a perfect example, right, for Mark. What should he do? The rental approach, if he's going to cash flow and rent it for 2,100, makes more sense at this point, because if he's going to further drop the price, right, then he's not going to be making over 50,000 profit, which means that the rental approach is more profitable in the long term. Plus, he's going to increase his net worth over time and his cash flow. Are there any other questions?
The more I think about it, I think rental at this point is probably the best option. But like I said, I have a partner on the deal, so I have to talk to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Your examples are good, but you don't repeat them. And sometimes we're writing and we lose track of what you're saying because you move on to the next item. So I didn't get all of Mark's comment.
Mark example was perfect. Okay, so let me rerun the numbers again. His purchase and rehab all in is 150,000. Okay, his ARV is somewhere in the 230. So now the question is he gonna rent or flip? What makes more sense? If he was to sell it for 230, he's gonna be making about 55,000. If he was to rent it today, he would be making 60,000 in the next 10 years, positive cash flow. So then it makes more sense to to rent, like all day long. I mean, does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a chance to write it down.
Espérame, un segundo, un segundo. Okay. So, gotta switch cameras, guys. So the thing is that that's a really quick and easy analysis to decide whether you want to rent or flip. Now, does anybody have another example?
Hey, Hugo, this is David. Can you hear me?
Hey, David. Yes, absolutely.
Hugo,
I'm hearing an echo on the line.
you have two things on, so you have to mute one of them because it's echo.
We have a big echo, back noise.
There we go.
Yeah.
Works.
Okay, so much better. Here we go, guys.
I hear what you're saying.
What was it?
Can you hear me, Hugo?
Yeah, I can hear you, David.
Awesome. I guess the missing component, what we keep hearing from Mark is he has a partner in this. So you're saying he's going to be, profiting about $400 a month. We don't know what arrangement he had with his partner. I mean, if it's a split, that's only $200 a month.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
If I do a rental in the refi, I'll just
evaluating to just
I would
and
just
just
pay him
go ahead and reduce the price.
David, that's the answer to that question. I'm going to cash him out and I'll just keep it myself.
Oh, okay. All right, Mark. Thanks. We didn't hear that part. So.
Fine.
Hey, David, how is Lansing?
Lansing is a headache.
No, you're doing the roof, right?
Yes, Elena's supposed to put the roof on this week. As of right now, they're drywalling finally. I ran into a snafu with the city over the week where they said that the permit was expired. But I pointed out, hey, for projects over 50 grand, permit is good for a year because we've been at it for about 6 months now. My contract is very slow. But as of right now, the windows are in, all plumbing is done. We passed the plumbing inspection. We passed the electrical inspection. We got plumbing tomorrow. We have plumbing inspection tomorrow. And some areas that did not require inspection, we started drywalling because the electric has already been installed. So it's going fairly slow, but it's moving along. I'm keeping a look at the numbers, seeing what other properties are selling for. So,
how are your numbers looking like? Purchase, rehab, ARV, and so forth.
Well, if you recall, I wrote a contract for 70 grand.
Yes.
And the ARV, I think we came up with like about 240, 245.
Okay.
We got a loan on the place for 130, so that includes the rehab and acquisition.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at with number wise, and I saw a property that's very similar to this one that just sold for like 250.
Okay, very good.
So I seem to be with somewhere between 240, 250.
Okay, so you
that's
have
on the
enough
low
meat in
side.
the bone.
I'm being conservative.
Yeah, that's very good. So you still have enough meat in the bone, so long you stay within a reasonable budget, right? 50, 60?
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah, we still within the budget. We haven't went over.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome, David. Anything else that you're working on or happening?
Got a number of things going on. I mean, as far as just talking to people, I got a closing on that Matson one coming up. The one in Villa Park fell apart. The one in Villa Park, remember that one that fell apart. The owner ended up having a $21,000 tax lien that he didn't know about. We were supposed to close on Monday, and we found this out on Friday. So that was a bummer. I guess that's one of the toughest things I noticed in this business, where you count your numbers, and all of a sudden something goes wrong. So
Yeah.
so I'm just learning to keep moving and not let that be a bad focus. So getting a number of calls through Russell's program with the REI reply, calling people, getting a number of people calling back. Just sometimes the numbers work, sometimes it does not work. So
Right. Very good, David.
that's about it.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, thank you, David. Hey,
Thank you.
Gary. Thank you, Gary Goodwin. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today. I've been just working on my finance, and I'm still working on my HELOC. Thank you, Hugo.
HELOC. Okay, so yeah, I
Yeah,
remember you were telling me about the
yeah,
HELOC. So that's still in the process.
right.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. No problem. Okay, anybody would like to share anything or any questions that we can address now, or need any resources? So if not, let's quickly recap. What should you do? Rent versus flip. So if your rental cash flow for the next 10 years, positive cash flow, is going to be greater than your net proceed on the flip, then you should hold. But if it's the other way around, where your net profit on the flip is greater than your positive cash flow for the next 10 years, then you flip. Just be aware of declining ARVs, making sure that you stick to your budget. That's going to be critical. Again, we're hitting 45, 50,000 on 3-bedroom, 2-bath, up to 60 if you need exterior work. Just be aware of increasing labor and materials expenses. But for sure, stick to flips, see if the numbers make sense. But always have a plan B available, which is the rental side, where you need to refinance and then just rent it out, because the rental market is hotter than hot. It's super strong. Rents have gone through the roof. So plus it's the best strategy out of all of them. But a combination of all three is just incredible to take on. So now, guys, if as I have mentioned earlier, if you have a deal, we have the funding. We can partner up with you and let you use our line of credit. So it's 90% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab. So if you have anything going on that makes sense number-wise, we can partner up with you. Okay. So let us know if anything comes your way, that you need funding or anything else. So thank you everyone for joining, and if you have any questions, please reach out and I'll be happy to connect with all of you. So thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, Hugo.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for
Thank you.
sharing, Hugo.
Thank you
Thank you.
everyone.